And Kurt says, I have been enjoying reading Chad's book on stream. It is undeniably a book of our time. Ooh. Wait, reading it on. Oh, so have you been going over it like, like doing a reading session with your subscribers? Is that what you're talking about? That'd be, oh, I don't know if I could do it. I have a little bit of PTSD from this subject, from this trial, from my youth. Yeah. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I could read it. It would probably, it might be fun watching me respond. No. Oh, it's a book and it has I mean, I've kind of, does he have them on Audible? And Lord, if it's on Audible, please don't let him be the one reading it. I would never be able to finish it. I can't get through his phone calls or his blessing, his Alex blessing thing. That was rough. I was like sitting here going, I'm falling asleep. He's got, oh my God, his voice is just a droner. Kurt says, I was reading the book on stream during breaks when oh, okay. Oh, okay. Did you read the text message story that Chad wrote? If not, would you like me to read it to you on? Oh, that would be fun. That'd be cool. Yeah. You want to do that now? Do it until the verdict comes in? Okay, hold on one second. Guess what, guys? Guess who's coming up here? I'm gonna be all giddy. Oh, good Lord. Oh, good Lord. Okay, one second. Let me get the thingy to you. Wait, hold on. Oh, I almost hit leave studio. not that one. I have to find you, Mr. Uncivil Law. There you are. You should have it on Insta. Oh my goodness. What in the world is going to happen in about 5 minutes, y'all? Oh, this is going to be good. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have no words though. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe this is going to happen. Oh, what is my world? Yes. Chatters want you to spice it up when you get here. Okay, guys, let's get ready. Hold on a minute. Ready? Here he comes, Mr. Uncivil Law. Hey.
Hi.
Hello. Goodness,
How you doing?
What's happening?
It's all good, man.
I don't know if anybody didn't see or is just coming in. I have a very special guest that I am just, I can't believe I'm sitting here. Look. I have been following you for a very long time. And secretly in a chat that was scrolling like crazy. You have a very large chat. And I would say hi, and then that's about it.
You'd even say hi to me in Log Crab chat, which was even bigger, and I appreciated it. I appreciate the little bit of love. It was very nice.
Oh, I've always loved the way you've done your stuff, the way you talk, the way you do all your stuff. And do you notice something about the background? I had mine first. My
Fair
lit.
Enough. Fair enough.
I actually started it when Miss Emily D. Baker came on the scene way back when, during 2020 and all that. And yeah, that's when I actually started really following you, both of you guys, during the Tati.
It's not exactly necessarily a unique look, but it does, of course, speak to me. We've got some wonderful paintings from history. We got, Freedom of Speech by Norman Rockefeller. This one here is also Norman Rockefeller. I think it's called the Trouble We Live With or something like that. It depicts the girl being taken to school by the federal marshals in New Orleans during the desegregation. And I find it very uplifting because it's like it reminds us of where we came from and also reminds us of the rule of law. And I like that stuff. And then, other little knickknacks to represent my personality. So, hey, we try to customize it a little bit.
That's exactly what's behind me. I have Rubik's Cube and Legos. And then over here is my yarn because I crochet and knit. And then other assorted Star Wars stuff. So yes, and nail polish stuff. So yeah, it's the same thing. It's what represents me.
Yeah,
And
exactly. It's all you really want, right?
yeah.
So that's all good. So yes, I have a little novella. It's actually several pages long, but it's not like a full story. But he texted a story to Lori, and if you like, I will read you the story, and you will enjoy it.
Go, yes, go.
All right. Friday morning, October 26th, driving south on a freeway, a voice said, "You will meet an extraordinary woman today who will change your life forever." This was shocking, since such a thing seemed very unlikely at this conference. It's actually a very detailed story that began long ago on another world, and I will cover that part as I go along and the characters figure things out. But on the morning of October 26th, James arrived in St. George, still a bit baffled by the message he had received. He unloaded his books and set up his table, then joined the organizers for dinner in the main room. He saw his friend, MG, who had been so helpful to him when he spoke in Mesa that July. MG introduced James to her friend, Elena. When their hands touched, he felt a shock pass through him, and his heart started beating fast. Elena was gorgeous and vivacious, and James was a little intimidated, yet honored that she would talk to him. He was happily surprised when she mentioned a key part of his novel, The Renewed Earth. No one had ever recognized the significance of this scene before. He had heard that voice before and seen that smile before. He felt they had even talked like this before. But who could be certain when? It was strange, but he could remember. The feelings were very strong, as if they had known each other oh so long. They didn't get many chances to talk after that, because he had to help voice a woman's blue Muppet. But he would watch her every chance he could. He had to stay at a relative's house that night, but he hardly slept. He kept envisioning himself with Elena in very wonderful situations that indicated they had been more than just friends. James was the first speaker on Saturday morning and knew exactly where Elena was sitting. He made sure to mention the scene from his book that they had discussed the previous evening. He was completely smitten by her and was even nervous of what she would think of his talk as he spoke. But when he would glance at her, she was always attentive and watching him, unlike the rest of the crowd. After his talk, he went to his book table. His talk had gone well, and there was a good group gathered around to buy books. His heart nearly leaped out of his chest when Elena joined him and helped to sell the books. She was so beautiful that he could hardly concentrate on the customers. She straightened the books out and gave the books great reviews, although she made him laugh a lot when she kept pushing the youth and fifth volumes of his first series. He could only giggle when people asked if she was his wife, because yes, in fact she was. She just didn't know it yet. James was definitely feeling a little amorous towards Elena as they sold books together. He had not felt this happy in his entire life. He was quite sure that the woman the voice had talked about. James was ecstatic because he had already fallen deeply in love with her. Or better said, he remembered how much he already loved her. Her eyes had memorized him from the moment they met, but once the book sales slowed down, she stood near him behind the table. They looked deeply into each other's eyes for the first time, and he knew he was in the presence of a goddess. He resisted an impulse to kiss her, but his entire body was on fire. He instinctively knew she was everything he had dreamed of. I must clarify that James is a very difficult person to get information from. He's been blessed with great knowledge, but 99% of the people he knows do not realize that. He was very guarded, and it's a great task to gain his trust. But as Elena leaned forward and asked him a couple of very insightful questions, his heart burst forward with joy. He knew she was one, if very few people on earth, he could trust. James's spirit was so excited at this revelation that he shattered a thick veil that had been placed between these two souls during their mortal lives. The thick veil had been placed because of the unique, unparalleled love that James and Elena had shared in previous lifetimes. That veil had prevented them from finding each other until this appointed day that would be remembered throughout the heavens as the true beginning of a spectacular mission that would save millions of souls and defeat the forces of darkness. James's physical attraction to Elena was almost overwhelming, but he was equally drawn to the spiritual energy that was radiating from her. As they talked, it was confirmed to him that they had indeed been married before, and they were eternal companions. He had glimpses of them walking dusty paths together, and realized they had been married during the life of Jesus Christ, and that he had been very close to them. At this time, their spirits could not be restrained any longer, and a long-awaited makeout session took place in the lobby. This was manifest in the mortal world to James and Elena through the scientific phenomenon known as loin fire.
And there we have it. My favorite word.
One more paragraph. As they talked, James had a burning desire to make love to her, but he wasn't sure she felt the same way. But they could not stay away from each other. One time, she was sitting on a couch near his table, and he took a seat on a chair about 5 feet from her. She began to squirm and cover her body with her hands. She asked him, "What are you doing?" He wasn't aware of what she meant. All he knew was that if Bruce Porter hadn't been giving them the evil eye, a child would have been conceived on that couch.
Oh, well, we need a new couch.
It goes on, but you get the gist. This is great shit.
Yeah, keep going. If you want to keep going.
I keep going. The erotic tension continued throughout the afternoon. James could only think of her. His desire for her was indescribable. Thankfully, she had worn 16 layers of clothing to survive the 80-degree weather. So he was not fully aware that she truly had the body of a goddess. Her dimensions were exactly what he always fantasized about, but that revelation would have to wait another month. As night concluded, James needed to take empty boxes to his car. With Elena's help, she sold more books at the show than they had ever before. She helped him carry the boxes to the car, and then he could not resist the desire to hug her. He made an awkward attempt that was way too brief, because their friends were bringing more boxes. In that short embrace, though, he knew he had found the woman he had searched for his entire life. It was made crystal clear to him that they had been married before and would be again. He once again had to fight off a powerful urge to kiss her and somehow disguise the massive erection he was experiencing.
I mean, oh.
They returned to the building and they helped carry tables to the second floor while she sat on the couch. They couldn't take their eyes off each other. He was already madly in love. Her group of friends finally had to leave. He was devastated, unsure about how he would ever contact her again. Then her spirit took over and asked him, "Can I get your cell phone number in case I ask some questions?" They exchanged numbers, and then they gave each other a hug goodbye. It was the most wonderful, electric, delicious hug they had ever felt. Then he watched her walk away, knowing she was going to truly change his life forever. End of chapter 1.
Oh my goodness, spirits can use cell phones?
Apparently, should we proceed on to chapter 2?
Yeah.
Chapter 2. James sadly walked to his car after watching Elena disappear down the hallway, but he couldn't deny their connection and his absolute attraction to her. She still seemed way out of his league, but he nervously sent her a text before driving to his hotel. A minute passed, then 2, without a response. He kicked himself for thinking he ever had a chance with her. Then his phone buzzed. Elena had texted back. His heart soared, and over the next few hours, they texted back and forth dozens of times. He knew that she was staying at a home in Tokerville, and he desperately wanted to drive there and whisk her back to the hotel for a night of reconnection and romance. He twice got redressed during the night to go see her, but the spirit gently said, "Have patience. Everything will work out as it's supposed to." They finally stopped texting around 4 a.m., and when he closed his eyes to sleep, he was taken again to their previous life together. The intense passion of their lovemaking was a sight to behold. He knew it would be difficult, but he could be patient if it meant he could experience that type of love just once in his life. As he laid in the hotel bed, it was as if her spirit had joined him. They wrapped around each other and kissed each other gently, then intensely, and the emotions they shared were not of this world. James woke up in the hotel room feeling happier than he had in his entire life. It felt like he and Elena had fit together perfectly in every way. He rolled over to kiss her, but then reality struck. She was actually more than 20 miles away in Tokerville with her Arizona friends. He texted her and she quickly responded. He deeply regretted not going to be with her the night before. It was as if he already knew the taste of her lips, and his hands knew every curve of her body. He knows his dreams were somehow real, and that they were actually talking to each other in a higher dimension. He hungered for he hungered for her in ways that they didn't think were possible. The voice was right. Elena was going to change his life forever. He packed his suitcase and began driving north on the freeway. As each mile passed, James could feel Elena's spirit beckoning to him to join her. As he approached the Tokerville exit, it took every ounce of willpower to keep driving the freeway. His attraction to her was beyond magnetic. He felt their souls were two halves of an eternal union. Tears filled his eyes as he passed the freeway exit. He desperately yearned to embrace her and then tell her he deeply loved her, as crazy as that sounded. But he knew he'd be seeing her 3 weeks later at a conference in Arizona. It seemed like an eternity away, but he sensed it would be a very significant weekend for them. He was already crazy about her, and his feelings of admiration and affection for her would only grow more intense and wonderful. During his long drive home, James was able to text back and forth with Elena, and it was clear to him that they were extremely compatible and shared the same interests. It felt like talking to a long-distance best friend. When he arrived home, he searched the internet for anything about her, but there was nothing. She was a fascinating mystery that he wanted to spend the rest of eternity with. At the end of his drive, she suggested they talk on the phone the next day. He was thrilled at the thought of hearing her voice again. He was falling more madly in love by the minute. When James heard her voice that Monday morning, the euphoria he felt Sunday came rushing back. They talked for 2 hours, but it seemed to be only minutes. He was obsessed with her, and he couldn't get enough. During the first conversation with Elena, James realized she already had a strong understanding of many of the truths he had been taught regarding how the universe really worked. The lounge fire and obsession with each other had no real explanation unless they truly had a spiritual connection before this life. He was able to clarify many of the promptings and impressions she had felt in recent years. She knew she had lived on Earth before, and James was able to clarify when. They had been married before on this Earth, and other times on a previous Earth. Their love truly spanned the universe and eons of time. They knew the Lord had brought them together for a crucial mission that they could only accomplish as a united couple. During the next week, they spoke to each other every day for at least an hour, but often longer. They hungered to know everything about each other. This was a new experience for James to open up and share his true feelings of his heart, but he knew he could trust her completely. The bond between them was intense, and only the vast distance between them kept their passion from each other from roaring into a blazing inferno. She quickly became his best friend, or better said, two best friends had been reunited, and their prior love was now ignited again in a wonderful, heavenly way. Addi, are you feeling the heavenly way? Are you feeling it? Are you feeling it?
There's something. Something's up.
I'm feeling the connection that spawns dimensions. I resonate with it on a personal level. Carrying on, as November began, James and Elena talked on the phone every day since last seeing each other. He was extremely impressed with her intelligence, personality, and subtle humor that made him laugh more than he had in this lifetime. She was complete delight to talk to, and the highlight of his day was when he could hear her magical voice. It was so familiar to him, and it actually healed and soothed his heart and soul. They would both attend the same event in mid-November, and it seemed like that day would never arrive. Each day, they opened their hearts to each other a little more. James knew he could trust her with the mysteries of the universe that had been revealed to him. He knew they'd been married before, and they'd been close friends with the Savior when they lived in Jerusalem. James had served in an important position in the Lord's church, and Elena had been his beloved spouse and best friend. That relationship was now meant to continue into this lifetime. In Jerusalem, James and Elena had enjoyed tremendous intimacy. Their physical desire for each other was unmatched, and they were fortunate that they could be alone morning, noon, and night. And they seized every chance to passionately express their love to each other. They simply could never get enough, even after many years of marriage. Everyone knew they were crazy about each other, and they were a wonderful example of how spouses should cleave together in love and unity. James had visions of how they would happily and joyfully pleasure each other in his office. They had two favorite positions that particularly bonded them together. Nothing meant more to James than holding Elena in his arms and unifying their bodies in perfect synchronization. As James and Elena talked on the phone, he tried to delicately describe their connection to each other, and she was delighted she believed him. He also shared that they had been married other times on a previous world, and she accepted that information as well. James was overjoyed to have these memories restored to him because he truly loved her with all his heart. He knew that they were meant to be married again and complete important missions together before the second coming. He was ecstatic that she was receiving confirmations of these things as well. As they talked on the phone, their spiritual connection was so intense, it also produced physical desires. And it was if their spirits were making love, despite the great distance between them. James knew his spirit was visiting her during those conversations. He also became aware that his spirit would visit her at night, and they would wrap around each other in a sensual embrace. Kissing each other was so wonderful and real, and he knew next time they saw each other, he needed to kiss her. He wouldn't be able to resist holding her. He was absolutely in love with her in every way. By the time the conference arrived, James and Elena had become very close through their phone connections, but he desperately needed to see each other again. She agreed to pick him up at the airport and take him to his hotel. He was extremely nervous, worried the spark that he had felt earlier might not be there. But as she arrived at the airport and he opened the car door, his heart nearly burst at the sight of her smile. She was stunningly gorgeous, and they gripped each other's hands. The electricity was tangible. The love between them was powerful and real. The hotel was only a short distance away, and he invited her into the room. They were soon standing alone in the room, and he put his arm around her and looked into her gorgeous blue eyes. They hungered for each other, and he leaned forward and fulfilled a promise he had made a few days earlier. He gently kissed her tender lips, and the same heavenly electricity filled his entire body. The passionate magic he had felt many centuries earlier came surging back powerfully. James moved to the couch and Elena straddled him effortlessly, as if they've done this thousands of times before. She fit perfectly on him, and they pressed their loins tightly against each other. The feeling was exquisite, and they both smiled and moaned as the sensations passed between them. They were still fully clothed, but the intensity of their intimacy was undeniable. James felt a powerful desire to bless Elena at that time. As they stayed in their favorite position, he moved his hands to her head and began to cleanse and purify each part of her body. He could feel the pains and troubles she had endured throughout her life being removed from her soul and being taken outside and destroyed. James's hands worked their way down her body and lingered briefly on her beautiful breasts. She truly had the body of a goddess, and he was experiencing an indescribable mix of physical and spiritual ecstasy. He soon concluded the cleansing of her body from head to toe, then filled her body with a balm of light and love. James could continue to see the happiness in her eyes, and instinctively their mouths came together again. The fire was burning strongly within them both as their kissing grew more intense. He gently said, "I love you, Elena." These words sparked a frenzy within them. Their tongues effortlessly intertwined, and their hips gyrated in a smooth, erotic rhythm. Two lovers, long separated, were finally united in heavenly bliss. After a few minutes of excitement, pleasure, and fun on the couch, James and Elena both felt compelled to change into more comfortable clothing. James changed into some athletic shorts and a blue shirt, and Elena put on a stunning black top and tight leggings. The top revealed just enough, but not too much, and James was overjoyed at the sight. James took her in his arms, and they smiled at each other. The vibration in the room was intense, and their hearts reached out to each other in glorious union. James gently touched the sides of Elena's breasts, and he was in ecstasy. She stood on her tiptoes and gave him a sensual kiss that sent electricity throughout his body. They moved towards the bed and were quickly intertwined around each other. She was so beautiful, loving, and enchanting that James could hardly breathe. They were both aroused, but they knew there were limitations on what could occur that night. But they kissed for nearly an hour and pressed against each other tightly. Towards the end of the evening, Elena laid on her stomach at the end of the bed, and James caressed her fabulous body. He grasped her perfect bottom with both hands, and she expressed how much she loved that. She soon stood up and straddled him again as they passionately kissed farewell. They knew they would see each other again in the morning, but the separation seemed too long. But they knew they longed to wait to find their eternal match had come to an end, and James was overjoyed beyond description. I do like that the spirit is basically a cock block in the story. That's very hilarious to me.
Did they have their magic undies on, though? Or did they keep those?
Unclear. Unspecified. All I have is the text of all I have is the text. I don't know what to tell you. James and Elena had agreed to visit the temple the following morning. She returned to the hotel room, and after additional romance on the couch, they calmed their nerves enough to give each other a blessing. After James placed their hands on her head, he connected with Elena's true self. He knew he was in the presence of an exalted goddess who had returned to the earth to perform a special mission. This mission included being with him, and they would progress together as translated beings. The full plan wasn't completely clear to him, but their immense power radiating from her confirmed his belief that she was among the greatest women in the universe. She then gave him a tremendous blessing that helped him realize how much she truly loved him and wanted to be with him forever. He was deeply humbled that such an incredible woman regarded him so highly.
We have a verdict.
Oh, okay. Exciting.
Oh, yeah, I just saw it. Verdict. Let's see what happens. Let me see what's going on.
It'd probably take time for them to get together. I'd be surprised if it's going to be.
I bet you.
It's probably going to be like a half hour if I had to guess.
We have a verdict, y'all. Awesome. So what until we find out, it'll pop up, and I've got it right here because it's still there. So as soon as it goes, or we'll be up for verdict. All right. So
it says court will begin at 11. So I've got 15 minutes apparently. All right. I'll try to speed through this. Yeah. But you don't want to rush the words because they're so glorious. No, I'll do my best.
My goodness. I have to change my magic undies now.
His heart burst as she blessed him, and he had glimpses come to their mind, not only of their life in Jerusalem, but even as a couple on a previous earth. He knew that they had been eternal companions for eons, and their love was beyond the celestial. They embraced following the blessings, and their emotions felt a mixture of eternal bliss and celestial desire. The sexual chemistry was undeniable, but their spiritual unity was a glorious bonus for them both. They had only known each other for 3 weeks, but two lonely, misunderstood souls had finally found their best friend that they could trust and confide in. They soon arrived at the temple, and they both felt they should do sealings together. They were soon seated in a sealing room, facing each other. Elena looked so stunning as she smiled at him. She seemed calm, while he felt quite nervous. Their opportunity soon came to kneel across the altar from each other. As the sealer pronounced those sacred words, James and Elena knew they were now sealed as husband and wife for eternity. As the earthly sealing was taking place, a similar scene involving their spirits was happening on a higher plane, where they kissed and unified their souls. They knew that they had just begun a new journey together that was eternal and never-ending. After the sealing, they went to lunch together, and they felt so comfortable. Everything was so right. James could look into her eyes forever, unless he was gently kissing her and telling her how much he loved her. Even when they held hands, there was a powerful vibration that exceeded the celestial world. They attended the conference, but their thoughts were completely focused on each other. James gave his talk that was well received and sparked great interest in his books. Elena joined him at the selling table, and they sold more then 359 books within a couple hours. You just got to love that precision. Not more than 360, more than 359.
Oh.
Okay. But all they really wanted was to slip away and express their love to each other. They went to dinner with some friends, but afterwards, they were able to find some time alone. They drove to a secluded area and slipped into the back seat. Elena was wearing a pair of incredibly sexy jeans, and she straddled James in the back seat as he once again grasped her fantastic bottom. She pushed him back into a reclining position, and their loins fit perfectly together. They kissed passionately and rhythmically as they pulsated against each other. Their love was intense and undeniably real. James was now madly, crazily in love with her, and it was so wonderful she felt the same way about him. By the way, I just have to mention this detail because I think it's hilarious. This entire text message is contained in the official police report regarding the murder. That's where I'm getting it from. It's in the police report.
I heard
some
that.
Some police officer put this in the official police report. I'm just saying.
I would like to meet that person and shake his hand.
I am reading this text courtesy of the Chandler Police Department.
You're welcome. Oh my goodness.
One powerful moment happened earlier that day when Elena was listening to another speaker while James stayed at the table. But he thought Elena said, "Come stand by me." He went into the room and saw her standing against a wall. He moved behind her and they discreetly touched. After a few minutes, he checked his phone and saw she texted him with that very sentence. At the stone, he heard his voice. It was a powerful testament they were already communicating with each other level. Okay, so she texted him, "Come stay with me," and he heard it in his mind. Okay, that's what happened. Okay, just clarifying. It took a while. Apparently, the text message service is unreal. He's getting the text messages delivered into his mind. I don't know if I want that service or not, but that's what is happening. It took a while for everyone to settle into their beds, but once the house quieted down, James opened the door slightly and saw the wonderful sight of Elena approaching the room. They locked the door behind her and got quickly under the covers. He was wearing athletic shorts, and she was wearing a tight, thin legging and a loose top. They clung to each other and kissed desperately, hungrily. James placed her hands under her top and caressed her splendid breasts. She moaned happily and wrapped her legs around his waist. Only 2 thin layers of material separated their loins, and they could each feel each other's most intimate body parts in detail. The intensity and spiritual vibration exceeded anything either one of them have ever been felt before. They knew their spirits were actually intimately joined together, and it felt like they had left the celestial world. Elena soon got on top of James, and they rhythmically ecstasy continued for several minutes. I mean, at this point in the story, they are married and apparently are still wearing clothing, so I don't know what to tell you. Kept pressing on. They fit together perfectly, and their kisses were deep and frenzied. Their desire for each other was beyond compare. As the reunion in the spare room came to a conclusion, Ralph knew Elena was his perfect match. They longed to stay intertwined to each other, but it would be best to separate and get some rest. But by 6 a.m., James could no longer stand to be away from her any longer. He slipped into her bedroom and stood at her bedside. She was unbelievably gorgeous, and he had a great desire to join her in bed and continue the previous night activities. But there were other guests in the house who weren't yet aware of their sizzling love for each other. So he gently touched her shoulder to awaken her. Her eyes opened, then she reached up and grabbed his arm to pull him into bed. He smiled, realizing she wasn't fully awake and had likely been dreaming of him. He simply whispered that he loved her and hoped that she would go walking with him through the neighborhood. James and Elena enjoyed a walk together that morning along a quiet street of the gated community. Their sensual attraction towards each other had been intense, and they touched shoulders and hands as they walked. They were like magnets that could not be separated. She had worn exercise leggings that drove him crazy with desire. The leggings emphasized her perfectly sculpted bottom, and it took all of his willpower not to pull her gently to him and grasp that bottom firmly and powerfully with both hands while kissing her passionately. They went again that next morning. Unfortunately, a friend invited herself along, but James and Elena were still completely engrossed in each other. He had to catch a flight home that morning, but he was able to give Elena a special blessing before departing. After placing his hands on her head, he felt their spirits connect with a surge of power. At that moment, his only desire in life was to be with her, and always throughout eternity. And that desire had continued to intensify. During the blessing, he was shown the great missions they would perform together. He knew this was an eternal union that would forever change the world. Tears filled his eyes to be in the presence of this holy goddess, and he was nearly overcome by the spirit as he sensed her true place in the universe as a majestic archangel. End of story.
Woo, woo, woo. Oh, the vapors. Dear Lord. It was kind of like listening to a 12-year-old. I mean, the book itself, was that written by a 12-year-old? I mean, that's. Oh, well, thank you very much for that. That was awesome.
Did you enjoy it as I prophesized?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Oh yeah,
Fantastic.
the enjoy. The level is. Yeah. Thank you. That was fun. You guys like that? The chat was like, we're all green. All right. Well, so.
And if you enjoy that, I'd like to remind you that he's a self-published author and has written many books that you could buy on Amazon.
Yeah.
Which I bought and then read on stream, which made it a business expense, which was hilarious.
See, that's what I was thinking. Yes. Okay. You're right. That took her up.
I am the proud owner of his entire, New World series and some other series. And yeah, I think he's got like 20 bucks. I've read worse, to be honest. I've read worse.
Oh, it's probably kind of, I do like kind of seeing the mind of somebody who's in, who has the religious mind trying to write these kind of novellas with their fully clothed. That was so funny. Still, I was thinking, wait a second. They're doing these things, but yet they're clothed. Oh, then it hit me. Oh, I've heard about what the youth do in that they're
the soaking.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't get that far.
They didn't even get that far. Yes, we talked about that one time. I think that was before I started doing this thing. My mods and I were talking about soaking. Oh, but thank you very much for reading it. That was awesome. Thank you. I cannot believe that this happened today, and it's awesome. And I thank you for being here with me. So I got to see real quick what the last thing was that Linda put in. She's got the tweets put in. So the update is, the last one that she put in is this one. They're hearing now that the court will start at 11:15. So it is
that sounds more realistic.
9.
Yeah.
What is it? 10. What is it, right? 10.
Yeah, they're an hour behind. So 20 minutes.
Okay. So we got 20 minutes. Okay. Keeping my mind. Otherwise, I forget to look. And then I'm like, oh, surprise. Oh, all right. Well, I need to take a break. I need to. I did it again. I also am going to have to come out and come back in because as soon as this happens, ding camera. All right, so that's what we're gonna take a quick break because I have to fix the camera and myself. Thank you so much, Kurt. I'm gonna go and stick up the deliberating thing, or at least I should have put. I didn't make a.
What do you think? What do you think the jury's going to do? I think my money's on life. My money is that they don't give them the death penalty.
That's yes. I think that there's going to be one. Probably it only takes one holdout. It only takes because they have to be unanimous, and it's going to come down. That's what I'm thinking is on these. I've only seen a few DPs go through and it become a thing. Usually there's a whole thing. And if it ends up being if he gets the death penalty, he's going to be there a while because
Idaho hasn't executed anyone in a long time, and they're not in a rush. So I mean, he'll be on death row for a long time.
Yes, the last person was it Creech? Was that his name? Something like that.
I don't know.
They started.
It's not Texas, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's where that I've been and watching trials from there and watched that procedure, and they go quick. No one sits around on death row for long in Texas. But yes, the the last guy, it didn't work. They had him in there, did the deed, and it didn't work, and then they had to stop. And so I forgot. I think Mal, do you remember his name? She'll tell me in the chat. I think it was.
Also, pro tip: if you're gonna, don't shit where you eat. So if you're gonna murder people, maybe don't bury them in your own yard. Just
Yes.
pro tip.
Yes.
That's of all the places, that's like the least good.
Yes. Yes. Or when they start digging, don't act like you already know they're there. Be surprised. Use the surprise face and not, okay.
All right.
I wonder if you knew.
All right, I'll let you go for now, and we'll see how it turns out. All right, bye-bye.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, y'all. That was fun. Let's see, we got here. All right, so we're going to sit here, right here on this thing. We have 20 minutes, he said. He did the math for me. Thank you. Time. That was fun. That was awesome. Wow. Okay, so we're going to take a 20-minute break. I will be right back. See you in a minute.